Hello, hello, Elkhart County. Happy Monday. Happy Monday at 4 for Triple P Live. It's kind of nice now. I've been doing this long enough that Monday at 4 just is Triple P Live. That's kind of nice when you get into that kind of a pattern and that kind of a routine. And it's great to be with you. One of the things I've been thinking about recently, we use this phrase positive parenting all the time. Triple P stands for Positive Parenting Program. And what does that actually mean? Why do we say this? What does that look like? And one of the explanations I've heard is positive parenting at its most basic is that you really work on a good, strong foundation and relationship with your child, that everything is built on that. And then from there, you have firm limits that you can enforce calmly and follow through on. So that really is the basis of positive parenting, developing that everything flows out of that relationship with your child that you actively work on. You have firm limits and you can enforce them calmly and follow through with them. So a lot of us are doing that, and a lot of us have a long way to go with some of, different parts of that. I think another thing that comes up for me in positive parenting that's a little bit different from some other perfectly fine ways of doing things is that you're always, the positive part also is that you're always telling the child what you do want them to do and reinforcing the good things rather than just what to stop doing and only telling them when they're doing something wrong. So part of the positive thing is telling children what you do want, and we do that in our rules and in our clear, calm requests, kind of when we tell them to do something. And then also that we're always noticing that good stuff. So when they do something right, when something positive is happening, that we pay attention to that, notice it, and reinforce it. So those are some of the things about positive parenting. If you guys have other comments or thoughts, I'd love to hear them. Some of you may have been doing this longer than I have, so please fill us in if you have ideas. And one of the strategies I wanted to talk about today is a really, I think it says a lot about what positive parenting is. So it's called directed discussion. And I think it's unique to Triple P, and certainly in the way it's used it is. So I want to get into that. And really, directed discussion is a strategy to be used when a child is breaking the rules or is not quite doing, let's just say, the right thing, not doing what we want them to do. And it's a very to give the child a chance to do the right thing. So it's got that positive element to it, that we're not just telling them what's wrong, we're giving them a chance to do the right thing and trying to reinforce good habits. So the first thing I think before we can really talk about directed discussion is about rules. So what are our family rules? And Triple P says it's very important to be clear on those and for those to be understood by everybody. I've got my handy little flip chart here, which is another little tool I use that has information about the different strategies. So some of the way to know if you're making a good rule or a good set of rules is, one thing we say is don't have too many. 4 or 5 is plenty. So really sit down and think about what are those things that are important to you? What are your family values that you want your children to really understand and that you can really follow through on? So if we have a list of 20 rules on the fridge, it can just get to be a bit much. So what are those few rules, 4 or 5, that are most important to you? And those might be a combination of big picture things and smaller things. So you might have speak respectfully to each other is kind of big picture. A lot of things fall under it. It might be clear your plate after dinner. It's up to you to decide how specific you want to be. They should be fair. They should apply to everyone in the family. There are a few exceptions. You might say all kids have to have all screens turned off by 8 o'clock, and that doesn't mean parents can't then watch something in the evening. But, you'll want to be clear on that this is a parent rule. But for the most part, they should apply to everyone. So if we're going to tell the kids what we want them to do, that we want them to speak respectfully, we're going to hold ourselves to that same standard. They should be easy to follow, clear, specific, and age appropriate. So, there shouldn't be a whole lot of interpretation involved. It should be pretty clear. Everybody clears their plate after dinner. Kids may try to interpret whether or not they were speaking respectfully, but that still counts as a, easy to follow rule if you can be firm and clear and consistent with how you enforce it. They should be able to be backed up, either with praise or with consequences. So one thing to ask yourself is, will I recognize if this is happening, and will I recognize if it's not happening? So if it is happening, I'm going to follow up with that praise and notice, thank you for following our rule about walking in the house. Thank you for speaking respectfully. That really goes well. And if it's not being followed, that we can follow up the consequence. And I said we're going to talk about directed discussion. That's one way to follow up. And then we also have kind of logical consequences if we really need to take it another level. And it should be positively stated. So this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier, is that we should be able to say what we do want them to do and not just what we don't want them to do. So speak to each other respectfully is better than don't yell at each other. So we want to tell them what behavior do we want to see. It's very important that they can grasp that. Walk in the house, use your inside voice, are better than don't yell, don't run. So this really is a chance for, I think, parents to get more clear and specific on what we want to see and to really have to articulate that. So what then is directed discussion, you're wondering, right? So directed discussion is a way to follow up when we see a rule not being followed. And it's always the same set of steps. So the first step is get your child's attention. This is really basic. It is say your child's name. The second step is briefly and calmly say what the problem is. And I think in some ways this is the most challenging, is to really pare down the words. I know for myself, I can be a lecturer and really give a great talk about what all is wrong with this situation, but we really want to just narrow that down. You're not following our rule about speaking respectfully to each other. You are not following our rule about the way you're supposed to get through the house. You left your plate on the table. That's not our rule. So you really want to get very just clear. This is one of the things that's most helpful to me in Triple P, is just to take out a lot of words. So we're just going to be really clear. So get your child's attention, say their name, briefly and calmly say what the problem is. An optional step is say why the behavior is a problem. If you can do that without too many words, go for it. I find I have to leave out that step because I tend to get into lecture mode. So it might be you're swinging that shovel around, you might hit somebody, or you slammed that door, I'm worried you're going to hit your brother. You know, if you can do that in a few words, that can be a good step. If not, just stick with the briefly and calmly say what the problem is. The next step is to ask your child what the correct behavior or the rule is. So I think there's a thing we do a lot as parents, like, what are you supposed to be doing right now? And this is a little bit different because you're going to go through these steps. So at this point it would be, what is our rule about how we speak to each other? What is our rule about dishes after dinner? What is our rule about the way we treat other people? And you're going to try to get them to say it. So you're really trying to enforce this correct behavior in their minds and not just have it always coming from us. This is a way to get some of that kind of intrinsic, not motivation, but that intrinsic behavior happening for the child where they understand what is the right thing to do and that you're more likely to get it. So what is our rule about that? What is the right thing to do in this situation? You're going to ask that question. And then this is a really critical step. You're going to have them practice it. So this is where it takes it to that next level where we're really reinforcing it for them. So let me hear you say that again respectfully. Let me see how you can pet the cat nicely. Show me again how you could get through the house walking. So you're going to take it to that next level and ask them to show you. Try that again in a nice voice. Something that gets them actually moving on and doing the right thing, and that's what we're trying to get that positive behavior. And then when they do it, praise them. It doesn't matter that they did it after they got caught doing the wrong thing and all of that. We're still just going to praise them. Thank you for walking through the house. Thank you for saying that again respectfully. Thank you for petting the cat nicely. Thank you for closing that door gently. Good job. You know, I feel a lot better. However, you can really get that descriptive praise in and be very clear on what the behavior you liked was. That's really going to reinforce that behavior for the child. So this is directed discussion. I'm going to run through it again. So get your child's attention, which is just say their name. Briefly and calmly say what the problem is. 1 sentence max. If you think you can do it and if it's necessary, say why the behavior is a problem. Ask them to state the correct behavior. And I should say here, I didn't mention before, this is not worth getting into a fight about. If they say, well, I don't know what the rule is, you know, that's where we'll say, well, the rule is we speak to each other respectfully. Now let me see you do that. Let me practice that. Let me see you try that, whatever it is. And then if they continue to not follow it, then we would move into some of the logical consequences, and we can talk about that another time, or contact us to talk about that. So ask your child the correct behavior. If they supply it, great. If they don't, you're going to say it. It's not worth getting into a fight over. Have them practice it once or twice, and then praise them for following the rule. So just as a whole example, I might say, Frankie, you're yelling at me. I don't like to be yelled at. What is our rule about the way we speak to each other? Frankie might say, I don't know. Let's say, our rule is that we speak to each other respectfully. Let me hear you try that again, saying it in a nice voice. And then I might say, thank you, Frankie, that's a lot better. And then I can, address the issue. Or thank you for speaking to me respectfully, that feels really good. So that is the strategy. We can send you a kind of a picture of this or more information about this if it's something you'd like to try. It's pretty simple. Try it out. I know that for some people this is a really kind of life-changing or groundbreaking new strategy that we can just deal with something quickly, in the moment, calmly, and it really reinforces the good behavior we want to see. So if you want to try it, take a minute to think about it, write down what you intend to do, when will you do that, are there some specific rules that you want to start using this for? Do you have family rules? Is that kind of something you want to do, is call a family meeting and talk about what is important to us, what do we want to happen? And then think about what you'll say, what could get in the way of me using this, and what will I do if that happens? So there might be this certain thing that when this happens, I just know I won't be calm enough for this. Okay, what can I do about that? Can I practice that ahead of time? What can I do to make this a usable strategy? Or do I need to talk more about what it would look like to use logical consequences, or to take a time out myself? Or, there might be other ways you want to deal with it. But think through those ahead of time so that you're prepared and ready to deal with those. So let us know how this is going. Feel free to leave comments down below, and I'll give you our other kind of communication channels in a minute. And in the meantime, one thing we're trying to do this summer is this is a challenging summer. I know I'm struggling with a lot of the normal things being canceled. And so we're going to try to share tips on activities to do with children and with teens. Last week, my colleague Diana, who does the Spanish Facebook Live, challenged people to think of what is something you will do with your children this week. She challenged herself to go strawberry picking. I then did the same, and we ended up in the same strawberry patch at the same time. So that was kind of fun. So a tip for today would be, I have a colleague whose teenage son has an app where he's recording all the fruits and vegetables he eats every day, and they've kind of got a little family competition going. So something like that, where you can get kind of a positive behavior from your children, might be a great way to go with teens. Download an app and challenge each other on a behavior you all want to work on. So fruits and vegetables is a great one. And then with kids for this week, one suggestion is try just getting them in the kitchen, see what they can do. Is there something they really want to make? And use this as a really positive opportunity to spend that time with them and to grow some of those life skills. My son used to always say life skills. So see if this can be a good way to nurture that in them. And again, please give us more feedback and let us know what you think and what would be helpful to you. So if you want to be in touch with us, we have this Facebook page. Obviously, you can comment here, contact us through here. We have info@PPPelkhartCounty.org is our email address. We respond to that a lot, very frequently. We have our bilingual phone line, 574-226-0160. And then we also have all these videos and a lot of others on YouTube. My colleague Tricia has been recording some webinars. She has one right now on dealing with disobedience for children like 1 to 12 or something that might give really great idea. There's just a lot of things built into that, and with any kind of a PPP intervention, you're going to kind of see the whole menu of options and then choose what you want to use and how you want to use it. So I really encourage you to check out some of those videos on YouTube. And they're also on, that one's on Facebook, that one's on YouTube. So thank you for being here. Enjoy the rest of this Monday, and may you have joy in the parenting journey this week.